When I first moved to Switzerland, I was mystified by this sort of advert. 4.5 room flat, or there's another one here, 4.5 room flat, 4.5 room flat. I thought, what are all these half rooms? How can a flat have half a room? And when I moved into the flat that we live in, which is also a 4.5 room flat, I realised what half a room can be. In our case, it is an oversized hall. So you have room for, I'm not quite sure what, a sofa or a giant cupboard. In many cases, it could be the kitchen is slightly larger than normal, because kitchens don't count as a room unless they are big enough to hold a dining table and have an eating area. Then that could be half the room. Or it could be the main living room is so much bigger as a combined living dining space, so then it would count as 1.5 rooms rather than 1 room. So there's all this weird terminology of what is half a room. It's very precise, of course. Bathrooms don't count either. So our 4.5 room flat is 2 bedrooms, a sitting room, a dining room, and this rather large hall, which is next to useless, but it gives us a big sense of space. Of course, the thing you need to know when you're looking for a flat is how big the rooms are. A 4.5 room flat could actually be smaller than a 3 room flat. And so the adverts always very precisely give you the square meterage as well. And what's interesting about Switzerland is that most people live in flats, and that's because it's quite a crowded country. It seems quite big, it's twice the size of New Jersey, but actually 70% of the country is fairly inhabitable. It's mountains, it's forests, and so the 8 million people, 7.9 million people who live in Switzerland all live in this small stretch from Geneva through Bern, Zurich, all the way to Lake Constance, and so that makes it very crowded. It's about the same population density as southern England or the Netherlands, and yet most people think of Switzerland as a very open country, lots of wide open space, but the bit where people live and work is everyone's squashed together. And so it tends to be flats. Even flats that were built 100 years ago, they were purpose-built as flats. They're not houses that are subdivided. And very few gardens. Most people don't have access to a garden at all, so they have a balcony on the flat instead. The other thing is very few people in Switzerland own their own property. In Bern, for instance, it's about 10%, which is very low by British standards. It's fairly normal it's low by even Swiss standards as well. The average is about 30% own their own property. Most people rent, and they might stay in the same flat their whole life, but still rent it. And so the buildings are owned by cooperatives or pension funds or banks or insurance companies, and they rent them out. And so it's a very different dynamic from, say, Britain or America, which meant that the property crisis didn't really happen in Switzerland because there is no property ladder, there's no property market, so to speak, there's no boom or bust. It just carries on very gently, very slowly, very stably, growing slightly. And the biggest difference for me when I moved to Switzerland was that every building has a cellar. I'm not used to that at all. Cellars for me are things that you get in Victorian houses or in horror films. And for us, the cellar is a very functional part of the house, and every Swiss building has a cellar. And most of the time it houses the laundry, because very few Swiss people own a washing machine. Very few flats have washing machines or tumble dryers. They're all in a communal laundry, which is there for the whole building to use. So in our building there are 8 flats, and we can all use the washing room. It has 2 washing machines, 2 tumblers, and a drying area. We're lucky, we don't have a rota. Some buildings have a rota, so you can only do your washing once every 2 weeks, for instance, and you have to know exactly which day you want to do it, and you have to put your name in the book. So it can be a bit frustrating. I'm very glad that I can do my washing whenever I want. But the main reason most Swiss buildings have a cellar is that they are the nuclear shelter for that building. Every building has to have access to a nuclear shelter, because you never know when that bomb will drop, and you never know who's going to attack Switzerland. Our cellar isn't quite deep enough, and so our nuclear shelter is in the primary school next door. But most buildings, they have this nuclear-proof room in the cellar. But the good thing is, of course, that if the bomb drops on one of your washing days, you will be safe, because you're down there doing your laundry, which you organised 2 weeks before. The bomb will drop, you'll be safe, and you'll have clean clothes to live through the aftermath.